Yes, I can call through our list. Stacy Brewster.
Hi, I'm Stacy Brewster. I'm the EFSEC Council Member for the Utilities and Transportation Commission.
Keep trying here. Okay. And now Robert Dangle.
Rob Dangle, I am the EFSEC rep for the Department of Ecology.
Michael Livingston.
Good evening. My name is Mike Livingston. I'm with Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I represent Fish and Wildlife on the council.
Lenny Young.
Lenny Young, representing the Department of Natural Resources.
Kate Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kate Kelly. I'm representing the State Department of Commerce on the council.
And for our council members who are have been appointed to in addition to the regular council members for the Horse Heaven Wind Project, Derek Sanderson.
Yeah, I'm Derek Sanderson, representing the Washington State Department of Agriculture.
And Ed Brost.
Yes, I'm representing Benton County.
Thank you. If we could have our EFSEC staff introduce themselves, please.
My name is Sonia Bumpus. I am the EFSEC manager.
My name is Amy Kidder. I am the EFSEC Siting and Compliance Manager.
Hello, my name is Amy Moon, and I am the Energy Facility Siting Specialist and working as the Horse Heaven Project Manager for EFSEC.
Yes, and I am Kyle Overton. I'm another EFSEC Site Specialist with EFSEC.
Hi, my name is Joan Owens. I handle the administrative side of EFSEC.
My name is Patricia Betts, and I provide support to EFSEC for conducting environmental review under the State Environmental Policy Act.
This is Stu Henderson. I'm a senior policy advisor with EFSEC.
Thank you, everyone. And we will hear from the Council for the Environment, who is a party to the EFSEC review of the application during our formal presentation as well. So we have a few more minutes here if people continue to make sure, if you want to, you have that website open to see the presentations. The presentation slides. We will begin at 5:30. Calling our informational meeting to order. Good evening again. My name is Kathleen Drew, and I am the chair of the Washington Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, or EFSEC, EFSEC. Welcome and thank you for joining EFSEC this evening for our public informational meeting and land use consistency hearing for the proposed Horse Heaven Wind Project. The purpose of EFSEC's meeting tonight is to share information about the Horse Heaven Wind Project and EFSEC's review process, and to hear public comment on the project. EFSEC statute RCW 8040-090 requires EFSEC to conduct a public informational meeting and land use consistency hearing within 60 days of receipt of an application for site certification. The applicant, Scout Energy, submitted their application. Their application is called an ASC, and they submitted that application to us the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council on February 8, 2021. At this point, I would ask the clerk to call the roll of the council.
Department of Commerce,
Kate Kelly, present.
Department of Ecology,
Rob Dingle, present.
Department of Fish and Wildlife,
Mike Livingston, present.
Department of Natural Resources,
Lenny Young, present.
Utilities and Transportation Commission.
Stacy Brewster, present.
For the Horse Heaven Project, Derek Sandison,
Derek Sanderson, present.
Ed Brost.
Ed Bros present.
Chair, there is a quorum for the EFSEC Regular Council and for the Horse Heaven Council.
Thank you. We will now proceed to the Scout Clean Energy presentation. Please remember to introduce your team. Thank you. They are putting their presentation forward, so it will be just a minute here.
Can everyone hear me?
We're getting feedback.
While Mr. Landis gets ready to make his presentation, can we ask all of you to check to see if you're not a speaker? Please mute your microphones. Thank you.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Try again there. We did get feedback.
Pat Landis.
That's good.
Hi, can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Sorry about this.
Okay, you're ready? The screen is visible.
So as they say, it worked fine last time. Chair Drew and council members, Scout Clean Energy appreciates this opportunity to present the Horse Heaven Wind Farm application to the council. I am Dave Kobus, the project manager, and reside in Richland, Washington. Earlier in my career, I had developed the Nine Canyon Wind Project, which was built in 3 phases. A recent change in our application warrants an announcement before we get started. Scout Clean Energy has withdrawn our request for expedited processing of our application for site certification. We did this to ensure robust environmental review with the full participation of stakeholders and local area residents. This change demonstrates our willingness to pursue an environmental impact statement and participate in the associated proceedings. My project team and I will share in this presentation, although condensed for the limited time available. Let me first introduce Pat Landis, Senior Associate Project Manager, who supports the project team from our home office in Boulder, Colorado. Pat has been a valuable team member for several of Scout's portfolio of projects in the Midwest and Western regions and worked alongside me in the preparation of this application for site certification. So Pat, let's dig in.
Thanks, Dave. I'll first go over the agenda. We'll go over a brief introduction to our company, discuss what is being proposed, give a discussion of our environmental analysis, a discussion of the economic benefits to the state and local community, consultation with stakeholders and residents of the Tri-Cities region. So Scout Clean Energy is a leading U.S. renewable energy developer, owner, and operator, headquartered in Boulder, Colorado. We have a local office in the Tri-Cities as well. Scout was founded in 2016 and is a relatively young company, but is made up of a long-standing management team with an extensive track record for developing large-scale wind projects. So you've met Dave and I. I want to introduce you to Javon Smith as well. Javon is based in Bellingham, Washington, and has over 20 years experience in communications and community outreach for energy infrastructure projects. For the last 12 years, her focus has been on renewables, and over the past year, Javon has been managing our efforts to engage with the local community in Benton County. We are supported by a team of consultants that helped us to prepare the application for site certification. So now I want to turn it back over to Dave, who will discuss details of what is being proposed here in Benton County.
Thanks, Pat. So the Horse Heaven Wind Farm project will be located just south of the Tri-Cities. At the closest point, the project is located approximately 4 miles south-southwest of the city of Kennewick. The shaded area represents over 72,000 acres under wind and solar energy lease and easement agreements with participating landowners. The project area consists primarily of private agricultural land. So wind developers look for signals of a developing power market. They then commit capital to develop opportunities to meet the power supply needs, often working years in advance to be ready when the market becomes active. The best approach to mitigate impacts starts with proper site selection. For wind and solar, the resource must exist and be commercially viable. In the western U.S., the resource is a function of storm-driven climate and higher elevation topography. You must have adjoining land tracts with the participating landowners. You seek areas of the country that promote new, clean, renewable energy development, preferably in the time frame when financial incentives are available to lower the price of energy produced. And you must have economical electrical access to power markets. So all of these factors culminate in reduced environmental impacts for the landowners and the community. Now I'd like to take a step back and talk about the regional energy outlook and factors that are driving the power supply demand. In terms of energy resources, the Northwest was capacity rich for decades, meaning the capability to supply load as it varies in real time. This created a vast energy export market, but these conditions no longer exist, and as a consequence, regional utilities must look for new sources for their energy needs. Hydroelectric generation is clearly visible in the region, as the resource is a prominent river system. But other energy resources are also available within the region to take advantage of existing infrastructure. The Northwest Power and Conservation Council has assessed the region's power supply adequacy and it concluded the region will be facing a huge resource gap over the next decade. The Council's assessment notes 3 main reasons for this gap. 1, a booming population in the states, including Washington, which is boosting demand on the system. 2, climate change is shifting the production patterns of hydroelectric plants as well as demand. And 3, fossil fuels are being phased out with early retirements announced and underway. In fact, this assessment determined that 8,000 megawatts of new capacity is needed by 2030 to keep up with demand in the Pacific Northwest. Some of the generation resources being sought in this region are clean renewable technologies such as wind and solar, as reliability can be enhanced through a diverse power supply portfolio of all available competitive alternatives. So Pat will now go over a few broader perspectives before we get into our project specifics.
Thanks, Dave. Renewables have become a source of low-cost energy for Washington and the United States, helping the nation move towards the goal of energy independence while reducing pollution and carbon emissions. The cost of wind and solar have declined rapidly over the last decade, with improved technology and U.S.-based manufacturing, making it competitive with traditional energy sources. Modern wind turbines are more efficient and affordable than those built even just a decade ago. Life cycle analysis shows that a typical wind turbine has an energy payback of 5 to 8 months and a carbon payback of 1 year after operation. Modern wind turbines also have a recyclability rate of 85 to 90%. Most components are metal, including parts of the foundation, tower, gearbox, and generator, which can be easily salvaged. Turbine blades do represent a specific challenge. Wind turbine blades are made up of composite materials that boost the performance of wind energy by allowing lighter and longer blades. The complexities of this composite material require specific processes for recycling. For turbine blades that do enter the landfill stream, they are among the most inert and non-problematic waste accepted, according to waste managers. Over the last few years, a number of solutions have been developed to recycle wind turbine blades, and a few established methods for recycling the blades are currently available. Two examples of these blade recycling programs are Global Fiberglass Solutions, a Washington-based company, and General Electric, GE, which is using shredded blades to replace raw materials in cement manufacturing. To ensure the wind farm is removed and a landowner's property is reclaimed when the project is no longer operational, the applicant is required to post security to cover those costs. Details are included in the preliminary decommissioning plan that is part of our application for site certification. This means neither the landowners nor the local government will have to pay for removing project components.
Thank you, Pat. Now I would like to dive into the project details. The panoramic photo on this slide was taken from Jump Off Joe Butte facing west. The picture also shows the existing wind energy project, which is a prominent landmark feature above the Tri-Cities. There's a lot happening on this side of the project layout. For those only listening, this is figure 2.3-1 on page 100 of the materials on the EFSEC website. So I need to cover several concepts about the map shown relating to the overall permitting strategy. Regardless of the wind turbine manufacturer model procured, the area of projected impact, or the micrositing, remains valid. Micrositing refers to the corridors which delineate the maximum extent of ground disturbance while allowing flexibility for unforeseeable circumstances. We will primarily focus on the option 1 wind turbine layout, which is associated with the smaller size range of wind turbine models anticipated to be available when the project procurement occurs. This has the most permitted sites and represents the most impactful full build-out capability. We will show all potential solar areas as they are clustered at the points of interconnection with the Bonneville grid. Thus, the impacted acreage evaluated corresponds to the maximum permitted build-out potential. There are 2 points of interconnection with the Bonneville grid, one in the southernmost or eastern part of the layout and another on the far western part of the layout. Bonneville has commenced network upgrades for their Tri-City reinforcement project, which impacts the project's western interconnection. Thus, the western point of interconnection has not yet been determined. Therefore, both alternate locations are shown to assure the aggregate impact is evaluated, which are the green and red lines, but only one can be chosen. To be prepared for any change in Bonneville's plans and assure the most impactful option is evaluated, all alternate transmission lines are included in the layout. If Bonneville's plans proceed as currently envisioned, there will be no need for the eastern and western points of interconnection, which is the blue lines, to be tied together. Scout Clean Energy has been working to develop a wind energy project in Benton County since 2016. Scout recently acquired new interconnection capacity coupled with new interconnection requests that will allow the addition of solar and battery storage components that will scale the project up to a potential 1,150 megawatts of renewable energy. So the project will consist of up to 244 wind turbine generator locations, with the exact model and number installed to be determined closer to construction and based on product availability. We do anticipate the project is likely to be constructed in phases. Depending on the preferences of an eventual purchaser of a power sales agreement, or we refer to as off-taker, for the Horse Heaven Energy Facility, the relative wind, solar, and battery storage ratios may change, where additional solar is constructed with correspondingly fewer turbines. In total, the permanent disturbance footprint would include 6,869 acres for all of the alternatives scoped in the analysis, representing 1.1% of agriculturally zoned lands in Benton County. The project will also consist of underground electrical collection lines, communication lines, 2 electric substations, along with operations and maintenance shops and other ancillary facilities. Combining wind, solar, and battery storage system helps to mitigate one of the biggest disadvantages of renewable power, its variability. So design elements take advantage of the available resources and evolving technologies for winter peaking wind, coincident with high load demand and lower watershed. A summer peaking solar, coincident with high irrigation load demand and low watershed, as well as dispatchable electrical energy storage. Building these components at the same location can enhance grid reliability by providing electrical generation during more hours of the day, as well as the ability to store power for when it's needed most. Now I will talk about the equipment technologies involved in the project, starting with the wind turbines. So modern wind turbines are now more efficient, and the best-in-class models offer superior power performance. The models being considered will be required to be certified to international standards and offer state-of-the-art grid-compatible technology. The project anticipates utilizing the latest evolutionary technology to achieve the lowest cost of production, seeking manufacturing and design initiatives resulting in improved reliability, optimized maintenance access, reduced downtime, improved performance, as well as lower noise. We anticipate the availability of 2 size categories. The 3 megawatt size we refer to as option 1, and the 6 megawatt size we refer to as option 2. In the application, we show this table for layout options 1 and 2, and the project will seek the most cost-effective model with available manufacturing production at the time turbine equipment is procured. Including this range of turbine sizing assures we have analyzed the most impactful case for every analyzed parameter in the event any evaluated turbine model becomes unavailable. I should also note that all turbine models are evaluated exceed 200 feet in height and will require Federal Aviation Administration approved obstruction lighting, but not every turbine will need to be lighted. For the solar technology aspect, the project will optimize a layout that minimizes additional infrastructure and utilizing best available technology. Solar arrays will have minimally invasive mounting systems for efficient maintenance access. A single-axis tracking design supported by steel posts with state-of-the-art tracking technology maximizes energy production by following the sun throughout the day. Glare impacts will be reduced to the extent practical by designing for the installation of non-reflective materials. The 3 sites evaluated for solar installations are located adjacent to the points of interconnection with the electrical grid. But this land is considered permanently removed from agricultural production for the life of the project, but can be reclaimed after the eventual decommissioning. Of the full project impact area previously mentioned, the solar arrays comprise 294 acres, which represents less than 1% of agriculturally zoned land in Benton County. I previously mentioned the design objectives for battery storage, which will consist of self-contained battery banks that would be placed adjacent to the two solar project substations and would occupy up to approximately 6 acres each. Lithium-ion batteries are generally used in utility scale installations, with current viable technology offering 4-hour duration. The battery storage system facilities will be enclosed within a separate fence. The battery banks are often placed in standard size shipping containers on a concrete slab. Each container holds the batteries, a supervisor and power management system, cooling system, and a fire prevention system. Now, external inverters and transformers are also necessary for system operation. By connecting multiple containers, the battery storage system can be scaled up to the desired capacity. Containers may also be stacked up to 2 levels with an estimated maximum height of approximately 40 feet.
So over the last 4 years, our technical consulting team have conducted a thorough environmental analysis and reviewed potential impacts of the proposed project. Mitigation measures for the natural environment have been developed and are part of our application materials. This review is a culmination of desktop and field surveys for natural resources, including air, wetlands, earth, habitat and vegetation, as well as fish and wildlife. Construction activities that could create fugitive dust include transportation, clearing and grading, and trenching or plowing. These activities will be relatively low magnitude and localized and temporary, resulting in non-substantial air quality impacts and no exceedances of air quality standards. Operation and maintenance impacts on air quality would be minimal and result from transportation of staff to perform standard and routine functions. This would be limited, intermittent, and localized. Best management practices will be implemented to control project-generated fugitive emissions and dust. Separate permitting would be required for activities that produce air emissions. No wetlands or standing water have been identified within the micrositing corridors or the solar siting areas to date. The project design and construction will avoid impacts to wetlands and other water bodies, like streams, when feasible. Construction and operation are anticipated to have minimal to no impacts on groundwater. Now, within the category of earth, the review and mitigation plan includes geology, soils, topography, unique physical features, seismicity, and erosion. Final siting intends to avoid geological hazards. No impacts expected to areas identified with combined erosion hazards and steep slopes, landslides, or liquefaction. Soil erosion and sediment will be controlled during construction through the use of best management practices. Project operations are anticipated to have no impact on soil erosion. Habitats were mapped and verified within the project lease boundary based on field surveys and desktop review of National Land Cover database data. This mapping effort found that 89% of the project lease boundary was classified as agricultural, planted grassland, or developed disturbed land cover, indicating heavy modifications due to historic and current agricultural and grazing activities. Project facilities will be sited on previously disturbed areas to the extent feasible. Regarding fish and wildlife, project-specific surveys were conducted and coordinated with state and federal agencies regarding survey methods and results beginning in 2017 through 2020. No wildlife species currently listed or candidates for listing under the Federal Endangered Species Act are expected to occur at the project. The project is not located within a priority area for big game. The results of these studies in coordination with wildlife agencies inform the project engineering design to mitigate and avoid impacts to wildlife resources. In addition, a bird and bat conservation strategy was voluntarily prepared for the project to proactively address potential impacts to birds and bats. This includes best management practices for construction and operations of the proposed project. An adjacent wind project has been operational since 2002 and has demonstrated low impacts in post-construction studies and operational monitoring of that facility.
So significant analysis has been conducted to assess the environmental health aspects of the project. Health aspects include identified sensitive issues per the State Environmental Policy Act standards, such as aesthetics, ambient noise, and shadow flicker, which were analyzed consistent with standard industry practice. For example, the clip of a shadow flicker simulation demonstrates the zones experiencing this phenomenon depicted by the hours per year of exposure relative to a residence. In the spirit of being a good neighbor, Scout establishes setbacks to address all statutory requirements and where not available, implements industry standards. Viewshed simulations have been done for a reasonable representative number of vantage points. The viewshed analysis was performed using latest visual simulation technology that precisely represents the terrain within the visual study areas, with clear sky and bare earth producing realistic renderings to scale. This clip of the 2 alpha designated viewpoint offers a perspective for those non-participating landowners and residents living closest to the project and is facing to the southeast. This represents option 1, which are the smaller models with greater number of turbines, and the closest potential turbine is approximately 3.9 miles away. Now, the visual simulation map shows vantage point distance buffer zones to identify the number of turbine locations with some portion of the turbine being visible, which may only be a blade tip. The greenish areas depict the fewest visible wind turbines. In this landscape, more turbines are visible from further away, but the impact diminishes with distance and obstruction, such as houses or trees in the field of vision. Scout recognizes that an existing precedent has been established through the State Environmental Policy Act for a 4 times blade tip height setback standard for non-participating residences. Pre-survey activities were conducted for agency and tribal coordination, cultural resource background research, archaeological surveys, and an architectural inventory. Pedestrian surveys, on-the-ground surveys, have been completed with all findings appropriately logged and reported. Results were consistent with those expected for the traditional land use encountered. These efforts inform management recommendations for the project to avoid potentially sensitive areas. If necessary, in some areas, further evaluation may demonstrate limited impact.
In addition to the environmental benefits of developing renewable energy in this region, there are also significant economic benefits that will be generated within the local community. An extensive economic impact analysis was recently completed by Tetra Tech, which details economic impacts of construction and operation to Benton and Franklin counties. There are parcels of state school trust land which may be able to support up to 10 wind turbines, plus a portion of a solar project. The revenue from these parcels would go directly to the school trust. The project is subject to state and local sales and use tax, and the state of Washington does offer a program of up to 100% exemption to sales tax on qualifying equipment, construction materials, and other items used in construction and operation of the proposed project. At current levy rates, full build-out of the project, 1,150 megawatts, could generate over $19 million in just the first year of operation. over the 35-year operating life of the project, that would bring in over $260 million in additional tax revenue to Benton County. Under current allocations, the largest proportion of those funds would support local schools, as well as increased funding to emergency services and road maintenance. Now, the results of our economic impact analysis also identified prospective construction jobs and long-term jobs. There's a large majority of local construction labor jobs given the nature of the project site as a metropolitan area. The low-end conservative projection for construction at full build-out is 930 jobs, and 56 permanent long-term jobs are estimated for full build-out of the project.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Javon, and I'd like to take a few moments to discuss Scout's outreach efforts in the local community. Over the past year, Scout has been working to provide the public with balanced and objective information on the project and potential impacts. We initiated a variety of public engagement activities beginning in February of 2020. And our efforts have sought to cultivate an open and transparent relationship with the community where potentially interested parties were made aware of the proposal, had access to project details, and were provided opportunities to share feedback with the development team. The COVID-19 outbreak created a new reality for public participation, and in adherence to public health guidelines, we limited in-person meetings and used a combination of traditional and digital media tools so that we could continue sharing information and engage with the local population. Because the Mid-Columbia has a very diverse population, we also worked to ensure that project information was available to minority communities through the use of print and social media, as well as Spanish language radio outlets. Scout's engagement with the local community has included the list you see on the screen here. We developed a project website. We have a Facebook page, an email newsletter, paid advertising to local outlets. We've conducted outreach to stakeholder groups offering virtual or small group presentations. And in January 2021, we held a virtual open house where over 75 people attended and were able to connect directly with the project team. We also completed a public opinion survey, which I'd like to talk about a little bit more next. So in December 2020, Scout commissioned a public opinion survey to help determine community sentiment about the proposal and to help us identify those issues of greatest interest to the local community. The survey was conducted by EMC Research, a national research firm specializing in polling, focus groups, and public opinion research. EMC was founded in 1989 and has been involved in thousands of public opinion studies and assisted numerous cities, towns, and public agencies with research to determine community and voter opinions on local and regional issues. The live telephone survey of 500 registered voters in Benton County carries an overall margin of error of plus or minus 4.4 points. At the 95% confidence interval is representative of Benton County voters. So the results, for those of you that can see the chart on the screen, I'll describe, found that 80% of voters think that government support for renewable energy is important, and 70% feel support for wind energy is important. There was limited opposition to government support for wind energy sources. When asked about the Horse Heaven project specifically, the researchers found that there is strong support, both initially and after voters heard arguments for and against the project. Prior to hearing any messaging about the project, Benton County voters support the project by a 19-point margin, And after hearing supporters and opponents' messaging, the support for the project increased to 6 in 10, or about 61%. Among supporters, the environmental benefits were the top reason for their support, and the opponents mentioned that wind farms are not cost effective, and they also listed aesthetic objections. Unfortunately, there is a great deal of misinformation regarding our project and wind energy in general, which can lead to concern and confusion about what is being proposed and how the local community might be impacted. We are always glad for the opportunity to provide information about the project and offer full transparency to those who are interested in learning more. When we do have a chance to connect with local residents about their questions, we find that most concerns that are raised are alleviated with facts. Scout is dedicated to maintaining these current channels of communication with the local community throughout this permitting process. You can visit our website for more background information on Scout and the project at horseheavenwindfarm.com.
Thank you, Javon. Together, we've covered a lot of ground tonight. So in closing, I wish to say thank you to the EFSEC staff for their effort and facilitation. Scout recognizes this is but the first step in a long review process, and that we stand poised to be transparent and responsive with details of the various elements of the project design and analyses. Thank you, Chair Drew and council members, for this opportunity to present what we proudly believe is a well-cited, thoroughly evaluated, and appropriately mitigated clean renewable energy resource for this region. So this concludes our prepared remarks, and we stand by to respond to any questions from the council.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions from council members?
This is Stacy Brewster. Yes. I have one question regarding the tax revenue. You mentioned it was based on the full build out of the 1,150 megawatts. Now, is that based on that sort of energy production? Because I understand that's not expected to produce at that capacity.
I'll answer that. Appreciate the question. That tax revenue is related to the property taxes that will be assessed on the value of the project. So it's not a production tax, it's a property tax that will be assessed by Benton County.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions from council members? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to next on our agenda, which is the introduction of the Council for the Environment. Under EFSEC statute, the Attorney General appoints a Council for the Environment to present information on behalf of people and the environment, and we will now introduce Mr. Bill Sherman.
Thank you, Chair Drew. So again, my name is Bill Sherman. I'm an Assistant Attorney General, and I'm a Division Chief for the Environmental Protection Division of the AG's office. The AG has appointed me as Counsel for the Environment for this project. Under state law, the Council for the Environment shall represent the public and its interest in protecting the quality of the environment. And so that's my role. You're welcome to contact me. My email address is bill.sherman, SHERMAN, @atg.wa.gov. I will put it in the chat thread. Thank you very much, Chair Drew.
Thank you. Now we will move on to the EFSEC siting process presentation by Ms. Amy Kidder.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. You could just let me know if you can see my screen.
Not yet. It's loading.
It's loading. I hope so.
Has it loaded?
It has not yet.
Windmills.
Can people please put their telephones on mute and their audio on mute? Okay, your presentation is up.
Great, thank you. Welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming to participate this evening. My name is Amy Kidder, the Siting and Compliance Manager with the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council. I have a short presentation to go over the EFSEC process for those who are new to EFSEC. A little bit of history of the agency. EFSEC was created in 1970 for the siting of thermal power plants. The intent was to create a one-stop permitting agency for large energy facilities. EFSEC is comprised of state and local government members who review each application before making a recommendation to the governor. This decision preempts other state or local governments. You can see here that EFSEC is comprised of members from several different state-level agencies. The chairperson is appointed by the governor, and there are standing members from 5 other agencies appointed by those agencies to sit on the council. The current council is made up of Chairwoman Kathleen Drew, Robert Dingle from the Department of Ecology, Mike Livingston from the Department of Fish and Wildlife, Kate Kelly from the Department of Commerce, Lenny Young from the Department of Natural Resources, and Stacy Brewster from the Utilities and Transportation Commission. There are additional agencies that may elect to appoint a council member during the review of an application. These agencies are the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Health, and the Military Department. For the Horse Heaven project, the Department of Agriculture has appointed Derek Sandison, and the local governments also have an option to appoint a council member for the review of a project in their area. For the Horse Heaven project, Ed Ross has been appointed. When a project is located at or near a port, the Port Authority may also appoint a member, though this position is a non-voting member. As I mentioned previously, EFSEC was created to oversee the siting of thermal power plants. Facilities falling into EFSEC's jurisdiction include any nuclear facility where the primary purpose is to produce and sell electricity. We also oversee non-hydro, non-nuclear thermal facilities with a capacity of 350 megawatts or greater. There is no threshold for alternative energy resources such as wind or solar, etc., but they may choose to opt in, as well as transmission lines over 115 kilovolts. Thresholds for pipelines, refineries, and storage facilities that would fall under EFSEC jurisdiction are found in the Revised Code of Washington, or RCW 80.50.060. Here's a map of the facilities under EFSEC jurisdiction. You can see marked in red there are 5 operating facilities, including 2 natural gas facilities, 1 nuclear facility, and 2 wind facilities. The blue marks indicate the 3 additional facilities that are approved but have yet to start construction, 2 being wind facilities and 1 solar facility. The clear circle is the 1 facility that is currently under decommissioning. EFSEC is currently reviewing applications for 2 facilities marked in green, including the Horse Heaven facility, which is, of course, what brings us here this evening. Here is a flowchart showing the general process an applicant will go through when they submit an application to EFSEC. There are 3 concurrent processes during an application review: the Land Use Consistency and Adjudicative Hearing process, the State Environmental Policy Act or SEPA process, and the permitting process for applicable environmental permits. You can see that there are multiple processes that happen concurrently when EFSEC is reviewing an application. One process is the Land Use Hearing and Adjudicative process. One process is the State Environmental Policy or SEPA process, and the third process is that of identifying and preparing applicable environmental permits. All of these processes ultimately feed into the Council's recommendation made to the Governor. When an adjudicative proceeding is required, a record is compiled and parties to the adjudication are identified. In the process of preparing for the adjudication, sometimes there are stipulations and settlements that come out between the parties. The Council looks at all the information in the adjudication record and then deliberates. Finally, the Council draws up their findings and conclusions from the information provided throughout these proceedings and incorporate those findings in the recommendation to the Governor. With regards to the SEPA process, when a decision to prepare an environmental impact statement or EIS is made, public comments are taken on the scope of the EIS. After public comment for scoping, the SEPA responsible official determines the scope of the EIS. A draft EIS is prepared and issued with a minimum 30-day public comment period, after which the final EIS is prepared and released. When an applicant requests expedited process, a review is done to establish whether or not the project meets the criteria of a determination of non-significance, a DNS, or a mitigated determination of non-significance, or MDNS. If the SEPA responsible official determines that a project meets the criteria of a DNS or MDNS, an EIS is not required. In this process, the determination is noticed to the public and there is a minimum 15-day public comment period on an MDNS. To be considered for expedited processing, an applicant must make the request in writing. The project must meet 2 criteria. 1, it must be determined to be consistent with local land use policy, and 2, the SEPA determination must be that of a DNS or MDNS. In this process, no adjudication is required. The Council prepares their recommendation to the Governor in an expedited timeframe under this process. EFSEC is the issuing agency for any applicable environmental permits a facility may require, which may include water quality or air quality permits. The permits are identified and included in the final order with the Council's recommendation to the Governor. At the conclusion of the Council's review of an application, a recommendation is made to the Governor to either approve or reject the application. This initiates a 60-day window within which the Governor will then approve the application, reject the application, or remand the application back to the Council for reconsideration. Any application that is rejected by the Governor is the final decision for that application. If an application is approved by the Governor, EFSEC then has oversight of the environmental compliance for the life of the facility. EFSEC has standing contracts with applicable state agencies that assist in the monitoring and enforcement of the conditions, either in the site certification agreement, applicable permits, or stipulations in the EIS or MDNS. EFSEC's enforcement authority extends to the issuance of any penalties as they may apply. That wraps up my presentation for this evening. Before I end, I'd like to remind everyone how they can submit comments for this proposal. If you'd like to sign up to speak this evening, you may call the EFSEC main line at 360-664-1345. You may email comments to our main inbox at efsec@utc.wad.gov. You may also send in written comments by postal mail to our office at 621 Woodland Square Loop, P.O. Box 43172, Olympia, Washington, 98504-3172. Comments may also be submitted to our online comment database at https://comments.fsec.wa.gov. There are two databases available for the duration of the meeting, one for general comments and one for comments specific to land use, and both of these will be open until midnight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kidder. We will now proceed to the public comment period. I would ask for Judge Adam Torum to now facilitate the next part of our meeting.
Thank you, Chair Drew. We are going to take public comment, and I'm going to ask Ms. Kidder to tell us how many people are signed up for public comment. It's now 6:30 p.m. We're allocated another hour for public comments, and we'll see if we need to extend that. Ms. Kidder?
I'm actually not in charge of the sign-up list. I believe we are at 64 speakers signed up at this moment.
That's correct. This is
All right,
Sonia
who's
Bumpus,
got the
that's
list?
correct.
Because I don't have that. Maybe we could put the list in the chat so I know who to call on. While we're getting that list in the chat, I just want everybody who's on the line tonight to be aware of certain ground rules and the way EFSEC wants to conduct its public hearings. First off, obviously, the Council is committed to providing a full, fair, and safe opportunity for all voices to be heard in a respectful atmosphere. It's very clear to me that monitoring the chat tonight, there are people who favor this project and there are people who oppose this project. That's fine. We're going to hear all of you and consider all of your comments. If we were doing this public hearing in town in Benton County, we'd love to, but as you know, we can't be there tonight due to restrictions with the coronavirus and COVID-19. In town, if there's a predilection for people to cheer for things that they like or boo or hiss for things they don't. On the phone tonight, we're asking you, of course, not to do that, but to keep your microphones muted if you're not speaking. So here tonight, I'm anticipating it'll be less lively than it might be if we were there in town and we could see the expressions on your faces or maybe see how you were reacting. But we need to give respect to everybody who's going to talk tonight, even in this virtual atmosphere. What I want you to understand is everybody is going to be treated respectfully and be heard. So tonight, that's a little bit easier, I hope, virtually, and those are the ground rules, so everybody has dignity and respect and their opinion is heard. What I'm going to do is once we get a list of how many speakers and the names that are signed up, I can call on you individually. I'll give you probably 2 to 3 minutes, maybe longer if we have more time. I want you to understand that your comments are simply that. They may have questions, but tonight this isn't the forum in which the applicant necessarily, or the county, Benton County's deputy prosecuting attorney will talk later in the land use hearing, but neither of those potential new parties to the hearing or members of the council are going to have the opportunity to actually respond to your questions in this forum. Staff will be, as you know, recording this meeting, and if you identify yourself and provide either a phone number in the chat or an email address in a written form of the comment, you have a great chance of hearing back individually to your question and comment so it can be addressed specifically. All of your questions are going to become part of the record tonight, but I encourage you to put those same comments in writing and submit them so that people can read them. Some people are audio learners, some people are visual learners. It will help to see that in any format. And again, repeating those comments in writing is recommended. Finally, I'm looking at a list that I can't see the names on, Ms. Bumpus, but I can see there's a list of 20 now in the chat, but it's too big in the chat for me to see the actual names. With 20 different speakers, it's likely that some of your comments are going to overlap. So if you're listening tonight and you're later in the commenting queue and you heard somebody you agree with and they captured the essence of your comments, please keep it brief and just say, I agree with Mr. Smith, or I agree or disagree wholeheartedly with Mrs. Jones, and here's why. but you don't need to repeat something that the council's already heard unless you have a specific way of putting it that's in, again, a respectful manner for the council to hear your opinion. Chair Drew, is there anything else you want me to add before I ask for the first speaker to be called?
Thank you. At this point, no, I think those are the first 20 speakers. And if you expand the arrow, you can expand and see the names in the chat.
And Judge Torum, this is Sonia Bumpus. I just wanted to let you know that Joan Owens does have the list. She's posted it there, but she is planning on being the timekeeper for the 2 minutes.
All right, Ms. Owens, can you tell me the names of the first 3 commenters we're going to be calling tonight?
Yes, one moment, please. Bill Boyce is first, and Will McKay is second, and Greg Wendt is third.
All right, I only heard portions of what you said, so perhaps you can put the names in the chat so I can read them.
Okay, I also emailed it to you just now.
All right, I'll see what I can do to pull that up. Bear with me, please.
And Ms. Owens will put on the Skype screen the time when the speaker begins. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
All right, we have our first speaker. His name is Bill Boyce. Mr. Boyce, are you on the line? Mr. Boyce, are you still present tonight?
You may need to unmute his microphone. I'm going to try unmuting everybody that's currently muting. Is Bill Boyce unmuted?
Oh my God.
All right, I'm going to move on to the next speaker. That is Commissioner from Benton County, Will McKay. Commissioner McKay, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. I'm going to, hopefully you can see the 2-minute timer, and I'm going to give you your 2 minutes. Joan, are you ready? There we go. Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. After detailed review of the submitted application February 8th, Benton County Commissioners oppose this project. The location and size and scope of this project is inconsistent with the county's goal of preserving rural character, enhancing natural resource-based industries, preserving agricultural lands and long-term commercial significance, and preserving the natural setting, views, and rich history of Benton County and the greater Tri-Cities area. The county has received over 400 calls and emails from area residents regarding this project and also hosted a public town hall meeting. The overwhelming majority, approximately 90% of the people that have provided comments, do not support this proposal. They have wide-range concerns, including loss of habitat, agricultural, negative impacts to wildlife, property values decreasing, concerns relating to health and noise, and impacts to view sheds related to the county's natural setting, history, and tourism. People in Benton County and the Tri-City region are deeply about preserving their ridges and skylines for future generations. This project is being proposed to occur only 4 miles south of one of the largest urban areas in eastern Washington. The 24-mile-long proposal is situated in an area with unique geological features comprised in natural vegetation, steep slopes, native habitat, and commercially significant agricultural land. Visual resources, as referred to in the applicant's proposal, the wind turbines will be visible from up to 87% of the land within 10-mile radius of the project. The visual impacts will be significant, with the turbines likely to be able to be seen from majority of the incorporated cities and densely populated county neighborhoods, as far as Franklin County, Walla Walla County, and the state of Oregon. The local municipalities, utility districts have not shown any interest in needing or wanting the additional energy created by the project. This is why these and many other concerns are examples of why we, the Benton County Commissioners, are opposed to this project. In summary, Benton County finds that this proposed project, as submitted, with its significant adverse environmental impacts, is not consistent and does not comply with the goals and policies of the Benton County Comprehensive Plan, the criteria required to obtain a Benton County conditional use permit, and the requirements of the Benton County Critical Area ordinances. Further, the public has overwhelmingly stated its desire to preserve and protect the region's unique geological features, ridge, and skyline for future generations. Once again, the Benton County Commissioners wish to thank you for the opportunity to comment and to let the council know that Benton County Commissioners do not.
Okay, I've muted Commissioner McKay's microphone. His comment time is over. Thank you, Commissioner McKay.
Son of a bitch.
I
agree with him 100%.
I'm going to ask the others to mute their microphone, or we'll ask you to submit your comments in writing. As I said, we need to have decorum in this. Our previous speaker that we invited,
we were allowed to
Bill Boyce,
say that we agree.
When I call on people, you can say you agree. If you're signed up for speaking, if you're not signed up, this is a great time to mute your microphone. Is Bill Boyce available? Okay, the next speaker that signed up, we have two from the Benton County Planning Office. There is Greg Wendt. He'll be followed by Michelle Cook. Mr. Wendt, are you ready?
Project is not in compliance with the following. One, the Washington State Growth Management Act, specifically as it relates to the preservation of agricultural lands. Number two, numerous provisions in the Benton County Comprehensive Plan, specifically goals and policies that understand the uniqueness of the Horse Heaven Hills, to protect our agricultural lands, protect naturally vegetated steep slopes, wildlife, and habitat, value the county's ridge lines and scenic views, facilitate tourism, support a robust agricultural economy, and protect the county's rural character. Number three, the Benton County zoning ordinance, including the conclusions required to obtain a conditional use permit. And number four, the Benton County critical area regulations. Further, it's been determined through this review that this project is likely to have a significant adverse environmental impact. At a minimum, the county would like to see additional studies and analysis completed for impacts the project will have, including the following: commercially significant agricultural lands, the county's habitat, including our locally important habitats, streams and water, our aquifer recharge areas, public roadways, wildland wildfire risks, shadow flicker, and of course, the most important of all, probably the viewshed and visual impacts, as this facility is located approximately 4 miles south of the Tri-Cities urban area. Well, this is just a brief overview of our findings. The county did submit additional information into the record earlier today with more specific references. Michelle Cook from the Planning Division will also provide additional details this evening. I appreciate your time this evening and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wendt. Michelle Cook, are you on the line?
I am.
All right. Are you ready?
I am. Thank you
Please
for your
go
time
ahead.
this evening. I appreciate your time and attention, and would briefly like to discuss a few highlights from the county's review of the application as it relates to the project's adverse environmental impacts. The Horse Heaven Hills are an iconic geological feature which visually define Benton County. The expanse of this project would cover over 43% of the entire ridgeline. Additionally, the proposed project would visually impact over 81% of properties within a 10-mile radius of the project site, including the greatest visual impact to densely established residential neighborhoods. For this reason, the county maintains that there would be a significant adverse environmental impact to the existing neighborhoods, which would affect an overwhelming majority of local residents. Due to the size and the scope of the proposed project and the fact that nearly 7,000 acres or 1% of the county's agricultural lands would be permanently disturbed, the county requests that further studies and analysis which address the loss of such a considerable amount of the county's agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance should be required. The county has identified shrub steppe habitat as a habitat of significant local importance. To date, it appears that only 44 of the proposed 244 turbine sites and none of the solar sites have been adequately studied. The county requests that all potential sites be fully studied and evaluated to identify site-specific impacts and appropriate mitigation measures for habitat conservation and wildlife connectivity. The application further states that 149 acres of the project site is located within the designated critical aquifer recharge area. This area is equivalent to roughly 25% of the entire Rockglade watershed's mapped CARA areas for dryland and rangeland. Such a large impact to the watershed CARAs has the potential to significantly change the hydrology and increase groundwater contamination in these areas due to the degradation or loss of the protection area, as well as a significant increase to impervious surfaces. With this, the county is requesting that a site-specific study with a hydrogeological evaluation be conducted to assess the project's impact on the area's ability to recharge groundwater. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. I appreciate you wrapping up quickly. For those listening tonight, I want you to understand the context of these public comments are just the beginning of an extensive evidentiary process that will be collected. This is just the first opportunity for first impressions on a project that we'll be going through, as Scout Clean Energy indicated tonight, a full environmental impact statement. So many of the things that Commissioner McKay and those in the County Planning Department are asking for will be extensively researched, and another opportunity for public comment on those specific environmental aspects will be offered at a later time, hopefully located right in your community, not online like we're doing tonight. We'll see how things go in the months ahead when we can come safely to Benton County. We're going to call the next couple of speakers. The next one is Doug Nordwall, followed by Bill Jenkins, and then, I'm sure I'm butchering the name, Gunnar Lidl. Is Doug Nordwall ready to speak?
Now connected to Galaxy S10.
I'm going to ask only Mr. Nordwall to please open his microphone if he's ready to speak. All right, I don't hear Mr. Nordwall, so we'll call you again in a moment. Bill Jenkins is next. Mr. Jenkins, are you available? All right, I don't hear Bill Jenkins either. Maybe Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Nordwall have submitted comments in writing. Next is Gunnar Lidl, and he'll be followed hopefully by John Christensen and Stacy West. Mr. Lidl?
Yes, can you hear me now?
I can. I'm going to mute my microphone and ask the timer to start. Go ahead, sir.
All right. My name is Gunnar Lidl. I live in Palo area. A lot of things have been brought up already tonight.
Reporter, I cannot hear.
I would like to point out that the meeting from the March, there was a couple of things brought up as far as how loud the trumpets are. They're very low, lower than a lot of spots. And just the fact that the construction, the over 500 men and women that be working on this job, that money will go back into our community. So I would just say I support this, and I think that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lidl. Is John Christensen available?
Yes, this is John.
All right. Again, I'm going to ask those of you that may have your phones unmuted to please mute them. I can hear someone indicating just to leave their phone on the table and leave it alone. If that household can please mute their phone, that would help with the sound quality so we can hear everybody's opinion. Mr. Christensen, I'm going to ask the timer to start. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I'm a longtime resident of South Kennewick. As a property owner in the Horsehaven Hills, I strongly oppose this project. Wind energy is not good for the Pacific Northwest, and the local utilities have just chose not to support this project. I support the proposal, and I support the Benton County's comprehensive plan update and I believe that this proposal is in violation of that comprehensive plan. Also, this wind farm proposal is in violation of a wildlife priority area. It is within the boundaries of the United States Department of Agriculture's Ferruginous Hawk Safe Program. It is an area in Benton County created to address priority national resource concerns, primarily the ferruginous hawk, whose populations continue to decline. On the federal level, this is a species of special concern. Washington State considers the ferruginous hawk as a threatened species, but the Fish and Wildlife Commission is in the process of changing status from threatened to endangered. So simply, you cannot construct a kill zone line of wind turbines in the middle of this priority area. Any deaths to this threatened species within this area and attributed to wind turbines would be completely unacceptable. In conclusion, you cannot mitigate to non-significance this visual pollution of a 24-mile spinning picket fence of enormous wind turbines with nighttime flashing lights and daytime flickering blades located within sight of 300,000 community residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Next up is going to be Stacy West, followed by, I believe it's Jacob La Riviera and Marcus Soffer. Ms. West, are you on the line?
Listen anymore?
Stacy West. Is Jacob La Riviera ready to go? Mr. La Riviera? All right, let me go back to the people that we tried to call earlier. Doug Nordwall, Bill Jenkins, all right, Stacy West, Mr. Jacob La Riviera. All right, moving on then to Marcus Soffer.
I think all the people are muted.
Well, they'll take themselves off mute if they're ready to speak.
I believe the phone bridge may also have a mute. Does the phone bridge *6 work to unmute?
Marcus Soffer.
People, you can put *6 to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, did I hear Marcus Soffer, please?
Yes, my name is Marcus Stoffer. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mr. Soffer. We're going to start your time now. We'll call back to the other people again. Go ahead, Mr. Soffer.
I started a website a year ago. It's called saveourridges.org. And I did that to collect information about this huge project and to share it with others. I live in Pasco in Franklin County. I would like to point out that tourism is big business in our region. We got a lot of people here to go to the vineyards and sample wine at Red Mountain, play golf here, or some even retire here when they're tired of the rain on the west side. I talked to the tourism office, Tri-City Visitor Bureau, and they told me in 2019, tourism brought in $560 million in revenue, and it created 6,370 jobs with 54 million in taxes. So the Scout numbers pale in comparison to that. People don't come here to look at giant industrial operations on the horizon. We don't need the electricity. We already produce.
Comment. Why let people know how to unmute themselves?
We produce about 40% of all electricity in Washington State, and much of that goes to the west side. We don't need it here. I'd like to leave you a final image here that you can relate to. Picture a panorama of the Seattle skyline with the Space Needle. Then imagine 244 Space Needles lined up from Seattle all the way to Tacoma. That's 25 miles as the crow flies. So this is the scale of the Horse Heaven Hills Wind Farm project. 25 miles of 500 to 670 foot towers. We don't wish that on Seattle, so please don't do that to the Tri-Cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoffer. I've seen some comments and questions in the chat, and I've heard a few pipe up and ask for how to unmute yourself. If you're on Skype, at the bottom of the screen, there should be some visual cues there as to a microphone or a video. We don't need the video tonight, but your microphone can be showed muted.
Stay on your bottom, please. Most people are on phone.
Those people that are on phone,
yeah.
those people that are on telephone tonight and have some reason we can't hear you, you can't unmute, I encourage you to hang up and call back in. That should reset your microphone. And call those people who may have been missed because of a mute issue again shortly. The next, moving on for time tonight, Tom Blackney and then Scott Levy or Levy, followed by Brent Strecker. Is Mr. Tom Blackney available?
I am here.
Mr. Blackney, thank you very much. I'm going to ask for your timer to start. We'll go from there. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Tom Blakeney. I am a retired person that has long roots in Benton County and also Sherman County, Oregon. My families were pioneers of both states. My great-grandfather was John Golden, who founded Goldendale, which in 1980 became the site of the first Boeing Mod 2 developmental wind turbines. I currently have farming interests in Benton County, where Scout intends to build a Horse Heaven wind farm. As a result, I am all for using wind for power generation. As a farming friend said, we have become so used to cussing the wind, it would be a great change to be able to encourage it to blow. The technical aspects of generating wind power are well understood. However, the social aspects are fuzzy because of a lot of bad intentions and mistaken assumptions. I believe the fears of towers falling, the flicker and the noise of the blades as they turn, and the flashing of required airport lights are blown completely out of perspective, as well as saying that turbines will ruin someone's viewscape. The Horse Heaven Wind Project will be located on the south side of the Horse Heaven Hills and is miles away and barely viewable from the Kennewick and Prosser areas. Without a doubt, these spheres are largely manufactured to support a presumed right of a private individual who wish to have their way and would like to micromanage their neighbor's property use. Most property owners have mineral rights going very deeply underground. I believe that property rights also include using the airspace above the property for almost anything, including fruit trees, buildings, and wind power.
Would you stop?
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blakeney. Next is Scott Levy. Scott Levy.
Yeah, Scott Levy here.
All right, Mr. Levy, go ahead and start your timer. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. I'm going to ask others to please self-mute their microphones. If I can figure out who it is, we'll do that. Can you restart the timer for him? Go ahead, Mr. Levy.
Yeah, my name's Scott Levy, and I was looking at the view sheds and things like that, and the ones I saw, there is some that the turbines were somewhat close, and if you guys find that you have to get rid of some of the turbines because of view shed, I mean, like the previous caller was talking about, you know, most of these are totally out of sight because it's on the other side of the hill there. But if you have to get rid of some, I would suggest that the megawatts be replaced with expanding your solar. The size of the project's wonderful. And when you do those solars, I think that you should be pointing them east, or at least have a fair amount of them pointing east. Maybe the ones that are replacing the wind turbines should be pointing east. The western,
right there.
the WEC, whatever it's called, western grid, could really use more of that early sunrise that this location could be providing. I won't be able to start your car, but thanks for taking my comment.
Mr. Levy, thank you very much. Brent Strecker is the next speaker.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, if you'll speak up a little bit more and project, that'll make it so that council can hear you as well. Go ahead, Mr. Strecker.
Okay, now can you hear me okay?
That's better, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is Brent Strecker. Benton County's been my home for over 50 years. I enjoy the outdoors and have hiked and biked the Horse Heavens my entire life. I'm totally opposed to the Horse Heaven Hills Wind Farm being pushed on us by Scout Energy. Just last year, I was able to spot 2 large owls in one of the canyons. I witnessed hundreds of sandhill cranes flying directly into the path of the proposed wind turbine area year-round. The seemingly thorough Horse Heaven Wind Farm bird and bat conservation strategy does not reflect reality regarding the number of birds in this migratory byway with regards to the massive 500-foot, 100-mile-an-hour blades. This is a much different situation in location and size than the nearby 9 Canyon turbines. It will be a meat grinder. Industrial wind turbines are not a novelty or a celebrated symbol of environment virtue to many of us here in Eastern Washington who live or have to live with them as an intruding presence along every path we travel in our community and as our backdrop to our favorite fishing, hunting, hiking, and sightseeing destinations. While Governor Inslee continues to promote rapid and widespread wind and solar power development in hydro-rich, already clean Washington, I question whether this would be the case if it was the sprawling wind farm with over 240 structures nearly as tall as a Space Needle and covering 25 miles of the horizon were being built in his backyard. The idea that my wife and I have to live with the...
Hey!
All right, some people can't get it today.
Person with the dog,
idea that
your mic.
Jesus Christ.
Mr. Strecker, I apologize for the interruptions tonight. There's only so much control that I have on the virtual environment here. I encourage you again, because I want to hear what you have to say, to submit your comments in writing or summarize them and put them into the portal tonight that was described earlier. For those of you, again, that are in a car or you're on your phone, if you could self-mute your microphones, that will help. I'm trying to police this as best I can with the technology. Greg Gales is the next speaker, and then we'll hear from Kane Segura, and then from Mike Wingfield, I believe it is. Is Greg Gales on the line? While we wait for Mr. Gales, I'm going to go back and ask, is Bill Boyce on the line? We missed you earlier. Last call for Bill Boyce. All right, Mr. Boyce, if you're on the line and you're muted for some reason, please submit your comments in writing. I'm not going to call your name again.
Hey, real quick.
Who's this?
Hey, real quick.
Hey, real quick, who's this? Please identify yourself.
Hi, this is Christina, and I just wanted to let you know that it's you can't Caprio, that you can't submit online on your portal. So I just wanted to let you know because you're asking people to submit comments written, and so I just wanted to let you know it's not working.
EFSEC staff will look at that. I don't control the portal, Miss Christina Caprio, so I'm going to ask them to take a look at that and see what's going on.
It's working just fine.
Thank you.
Ms. Owens is indicating that email would work. The address to send those email comments if you're having problems with the portal is EFSEC, EFSEC, at UTC, Uniform Tango Charlie.wa.gov, EFSEC at utc.wa.gov. We can get your emails there as well. Please use the subject line of Horse Heaven Wind in the subject line and public comment. We'll know where to direct your email. All right, our next speaker, Greg Gales, are you on the line? All right, I'm going to go back. Doug Nordwall, last call for Doug Nordwall. Bill Jenkins, last call for Bill Jenkins. Last call for Stacy West. Last call for Jacob La Riviera. And last call for Greg Gales. All right, Kane Segura, you're number 16 on the sign-up list. Are you on the line?
I am here.
All right, 2 minutes will begin now. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair Drew and the entire commission for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you all this evening. My name is Kane Segura, and I'm the business manager of Labor's Local 348 in Richland, Washington. I represent over 1,000 hardworking men and women in the central Washington area, including Benton County. I'm here today to fight for the workers of Benton County. Myself and other members who attended the previous town hall meeting were approached by Mr. Barry Bush in regards to his stance on the project. He summarized that he is all for local jobs, but this county does not need the power and it won't create many jobs. Unlike Mr. Bush's assumptions about the detriment of the project, and while we question Mr. Bush's loyalty to the community as he was in favor of the 9 Mile Canyon Wind Project, we are in favor of the level of economic support this project will bring to the community in all aspects. To go further, in the environmental study produced, Scout Energy discusses tax revenues going to schools and fire districts. Phase 1 of this project would be paid to schools with 32% of the total directly paid to local school districts. Fire districts account for the next largest share of revenues at 14%, followed by roads at 12%. In dollars terms, phase 1 during the first year of operation would generate approximately $6.1 million in school-related tax revenues, with $3.4 million of this total paid directly to local school districts. It is clear that this project isn't just about providing local jobs to local workers. It is about providing funding to our fire districts that serve this community, and to the parents and children that learn and work in these school districts in this community. We ask the Commission to consider approving this proposal and permit for the people of Benton County, for the members and workforce of Benton County, for the first responders, and for our children and their families of Benton County. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Segura. Next is going to be Mike Wingfield, followed by Pam Minnelli and Mike Minnelli. And Ms. Minnelli, I know we have you on the sign-up list twice. We're not going to let you have 4 minutes of time. We'll give everybody the same 2 minutes. So Mike Wingfield, followed by Pam Minnelli and Mike Minnelli. Mr. Wingfield, are you on the line? I'll call you again in a moment. Pam Minnelli, are you on the line? Mike or Pam Minnelli, are either of you on the line?
Oh, Jesus.
All right, next is Sydney Roberts. Sydney Roberts. And then Francisco Elguizabal. Last call for Mike Wingfield. Last call for Pam Minnelli. Last call for Mike Minnelli. Again, the next speakers following that are Sydney Roberts, Francisco Elguizabal, and then Mary Dye and Jason Lohr. Sydney Roberts. Last call for Sydney Roberts. Francisco Elguizabal.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, sir. Your 2 minutes are starting. Go ahead.
All right. Like you said, my name's Francisco Elguizabal. You did a pretty good job. I just want to
Bear
thank
with
you.
me just a minute. Hold on, Mr. Elguizabal. I have someone interrupting you.
Okay.
I want to say, can I make a comment? You're not telling us how to be able to make a comment.
Ma'am, I can clearly hear you. What is your name, ma'am?
My name is Lori Rouse. I live at the base of Cold Creek
Sure.
Canyon.
Ms. Rouse, are you on the sign-up list, or do you want me to add you?
No, I just want to let everybody know that you're not letting anyone know how to make a comment.
Ms. Rouse, you're clearly able to make a comment. We have a sign-up process. You're interrupting the process tonight. Can you please mute yourself?
I understand that, but you're not letting these people know how to get online to make a comment.
All right, I'm going to ask EFSEC staff to come on again and explain the process briefly one more time. Then we'll come back to you, Mr. Elguizabal.
No, not to hit start.
Explained it.
Comment.
And this is Pam Minnelli.
Oh, great, Ms. Minnelli. We'll come back to you here in a moment. Thank you for announcing yourself. Ms. Rouse, I'm going to ask staff to do it one more time to explain how to do it. I can't tell you how to unmute your phone any better than you know how to operate it. I've said it already before. If you think that somehow you've been muted by Skype, hang up, call back in, and you'll have a fresh microphone. Mr. Elguizabal, I'm going to start your time now. Go ahead,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm still here.
Go ahead. We'll start
Ready?
your time again. Go ahead.
All right. I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm a Benton County resident. I live in Plymouth, Washington, just over the hill from where these wind projects are going to go. I am in favor for this project. It will provide a lot of great paying jobs and boost our economy. Plus, this is private land. I think it should be up to the landowner if they want to have windmills on their land. I recently just built a home over here in Plymouth. They just built an onion processing plant about a half mile from my house. I wasn't happy to see it, but still, like I said, it's not my land, so I am definitely in favor of this project, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Alguazabal. Pam Manelli, you came on the line here. Are you still there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, let's have your comment now. Let me get the timer reset here. Bear with me.
Okay.
All right, it's reset. Go ahead, Ms. Manelli.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I oppose the Horse Heaven Wind Farm project for a long list of reasons. My comments here tonight will be limited to 3 concerns. My first concern is Scout's request for an expedited process, even though they now withdrawn that request. It raises several red flags. More time is needed to determine the true impact of this wind farm in our area. Examples of my concerns include much of the data included in the application is paid for by Scout Energy. Third-party experts need to be added. Their input needs to be added to this application. And an environmental impact study needs to be done by a neutral third party. Most locals who personally contacted knew absolutely nothing about the Horse Heaven Wind Farm. More time is needed to inform residents, local businesses and industries, city governments, developers, and more of this massive project. And the public opinion survey, including Scout's application showing local support, is unbelievable. Information showing local opposition to the Horse Heaven Wind Farm gathered by Benton County commissioners showed 336 against the 36 supporting the project as of March 22nd. And we have an online petition that has 156 signatures showing opposition. There are letters from city councils, elected officials, plus other surveys that need to be added to Scout's application to document strong local opposition to this wind farm. And additional photos showing visual impact of the wind farm for nearby neighbors, such as Summit and Canyon Views, have not been provided even though we've requested. And there are no nighttime photos showing the red flashing lights along 24 miles of our area's bridges. And there's no mention of the ADLS, the aircraft detention lighting system, as an option to control these red lights.
Ms. Manelli, time has expired. Can you sum up, please?
Okay. I'm just saying that I am totally opposed to this wind farm. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is Mike Manelli available?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, we'll start your time as soon as you're ready, sir. You go. Ready?
Yeah, I'd like to share some of my questions that I have in my own mind, and Pam has covered some of them, so I'll skip over those or briefly talk about them. And the first one is ADLS, and I'm wondering why Scout has not discussed and committed to their installation. These would provide reduced lighting or no lighting unless there's an approaching aircraft. Expedite. Why has Scout been studying the Horse Heaven Hills for the past several years, and immediately upon submitting the application, Scout requests an expedited approval? What was the initial thinking of the request? What was the hurry? Why has Scout decided the Tri-Cities people and commissioners lose the opportunity to communicate and educate the people who are the most affected? For or against? Very few Tri-Citians know about the wind farm. If they have heard about it, they don't know the details. Scout has recognized this in their study on the public opinion. Quote, of those who say they are familiar, most only recall general information. I personally handed out around 200 flyers at hiking trails, at various supermarkets, And the biggest comment that I get once they tell me that they haven't heard about it is, you've got to be kidding. Where? What? The survey for or against, there was a huge difference, as Pam has said. Scout shows 35% against, and the Benton County survey shows 90% against. Why is that? There are legal issues. Why did Scout choose Tetra Tech, a company with a long list of well-documented legal issues, such as...
Mr. Minnelli, your time's up. Can you sum up, please?
Yes. Fuzzy photos, the thoughts of 244 towers stretching for 24 miles, because so few people in the Tri-Cities area know what's going on. Once the monstrous towers start going up and polluting our skyline, and the 24 miles of red lights are turned on.
All right, Mr. Minnelli, I got to cut you off there. Mr. Minnelli, you have a lot of questions. I'm going to encourage you to put them in writing and submit them either by email, or if you can get the portal to work that way. I appreciate that we were able to get you tonight. Thank you, sir. Mary Dye and Jason Lohr are the next speakers. Mary Dye, are you on the line? I saw you on the attendee list.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, ma'am. 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairwoman Drew and members of the committee. My name is Mary Dye. I'm the state representative for the 9th Legislative District. I want to thank you for having this hearing. The Horse Heaven Hills is unique. It boasts of about 15,532 acres of very high-value vineyards, and it represents 27% of Washington's total grape production. And it is the source of only 5 100-point wines produced in the state. So the Horse Heaven Hills American Viticultural Area produces some of the Washington's most coveted and expensive wines, and it's a unique and irreplaceable microclimate that some of the state's most state-of-the-art viticulture is employed to produce some of the finest and most unique wines. The proximity to the Columbia River and also the sandy loam soils and the south-facing slopes are optimum for this wine production region, and it's unique in probably the nation and the world. And it accounts, the entire wine industry in the Tri-Cities and others accounts for $8.4 billion of economic impact. So what would happen with a large wind farm? Wind farm turbines in West Texas were studied by Nature Climate Change, and it was evaluated to find that they create a lot of turbulence, raising temperatures 0.72 degrees on average, but really changing the microclimate of the land. And I'm very concerned about the impact that this change could make. It could devastate some of the areas, most important wine production areas. So I would urge you to really consider this when you're doing your studies and when you're looking at the EIS, that you protect this viticulture, this microclimate of the viticulture in the area around Horse Heaven Hills. I appreciate your consideration this evening. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Thank you, Representative Dye. Right on the nose, 2 minutes. I knew you were professional at this.
Thank you.
Jason Lohr, a name that I think we all recognize. Mr. Lohr?
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Jason Lohr, and I'm an electrician living here in Kennewick. I'd like to bring up that this project is estimated to employ over 900 people and not just provide millions in tax revenue to our schools, but also millions of dollars back into our local economy from the good paying local jobs. I think a lot of people on here might not understand that construction follows by about 6 months or a year developments in the overall economy. We are just now seeing the slowdown from COVID because our jobs were already in process when it happened. Construction, though our jobs are temporary, we make up a great deal of this local economy. A large infrastructure project right outside of town will provide hundreds of people millions of dollars to support their families and provide a great deal for our local economy. I simply do not understand how we can trade food on hundreds of people's tables for the view out of a few people's windows of land they do not own. Thank you for your time.
Who is that guy?
Thank you, Mr. Lohr. Barry Bush and Clark Stoley will be next, and then Michael Novakovic. Barry Bush?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. 2 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. The proposed Scout Clean Energy project is in the middle of the Pacific Flyway. For those of us that live near the Horse Heaven Hills Wind Project, we can attest to the fact that tens of thousands of geese, Canada geese, fly through the site every year while migrating south. We do not need the energy. These turbines and solar panels will generate energy, but none of the 4 utilities in this area are looking to take even 1 kilowatt. The fact is, the local utilities need energy when it's coldest and hottest outside, and that's exactly when this site will not produce energy. We support President Biden's desire to build more offshore wind projects. These projects are generally not viewable from land and can be built much closer to where the load is needed. The energy in our region is already carbon-free. At Benton PUD, we currently have a load profile that is 93% carbon-free. A wind solar project of this magnitude should never be built by such a large population base. The Tri-Cities has over 3,000 people. Energy Northwest in Richland was just picked as one of the 2 locations by Department of Energy to build 2 small modular nuclear plants. This baseload power will generate 98 to 99% of the time, unlike the 30% of the time that you will get out of this proposed project. I'm not aware of a single local elected official, government agency, city, or county board from the Tri-Cities area that has come out in favor of building this project. I can, however, count 36 city, county, state, and federally elected officials and community organizations that have come out against this project. And finally, a disproportionate share of wind turbines are being placed in southeast Washington state, with almost none in western Washington or coastal waters. The fair treatment goal of environmental justice means no group of people should bear a disproportionate share of the negative environmental consequences resulting from industrial, government, and commercial operations or policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. Appreciate you wrapping up. Clark Stoley?
Yes, Clark Stoley, I'm here.
Clark Stoley, you're 2 minutes. Yeah, you're number 26 on my list. Just so everybody has an idea, we're at now 7:20 p.m. We have a total of 45 people signed up and a 46th person, the mayor, Don Britton, who wants to be last. If we keep going at the rate we're going, we'll probably be going another 30 minutes. So for those of you tuning in for the land use consistency hearing, I believe we're going to go ahead and start after the 7:30 start time that's been advertised and noticed. So just stay on the line. Be patient with us, please. If you're interested in the land use consistency hearing, again, that will be starting, I'm guessing, closer to 8 o'clock. That will include, again, some comments and presentations by the applicant and the Benton County Prosecuting Office focusing on land use. We're still in the public comment hearing and will be for a little while tonight. We're on speaker number 26 out of at least 45 that have signed up. I'm going to ask staff to see if they can close the sign up so that we can stop at a reasonable hour. It is a Tuesday night, and I know the Gonzaga Bulldogs have already won their game, so many of you are tuning in now, but we're going to go ahead now and pick up back with Clark Stoley. Mr. Stoley, your 2 minutes now begins.
Thank you very much. I'm opposed to the Scout proposal. Scout has represented this project as being in the interest of the greater Tri-Cities community. However, rather than submitting the project to Benton County for review, they circumvented the existing processes and went directly to EFSEC and Governor Inslee to ask them to make this decision. I don't think that's appropriate. Skipping through some of the words that have already been spoken, I just want to point out that at 500 to 670 feet tall, these enormous towers are going to stretch, they're taller than the Space Needle. They're going to stretch across 24 miles of our most prominent ridge line in Benton County. That is the equivalent of going from the Capitol building Olympia south to Centralia or east to Tacoma. I think that's both significant and impactful. Scout contracted to have various studies prepared to justify the project that repeatedly cite minimal or no impact to land, humans, birds, animals, tourism, property values, etc. I've read lots of EISs and I know how they're written. These studies appear to be strongly biased toward the project and they warrant greater analysis. I'm glad to see we're doing an EIS now. Although I haven't seen it published, it's highly likely that the power generated is not going to stay in Washington State. Be aware that several California counties, including Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Bernardino, have been pushing back hard on new wind farms and have passed restrictions discouraging or outright banning development of large-scale commercial wind farming. The state of Vermont itself has established strict regulations that effectively halt any new wind farms on ridgelines. This is largely due to the strong backlash of negative community sentiment and environmental impacts. As a result, wind farm developers are now looking to project-friendly states. Is that what Washington is? My family's been in Benton County for over 70 years. And like many others, we feel that the Horseheaven Hills are a special scenic area that are there to be enjoyed by our community and its visitors. Why should it be valued any less than other notable sites in our state? There will be prominent around our ridgelines where the topography cannot hide them. The negative impacts to our view shed and the scenic vistas that are so important to the quality of our life will be lost forever if they're approved.
Thank
the
you.
Trade-off for short-term jobs and land leases is a legacy of negative aesthetic and environmental impacts for our community.
Mr. Stoll, I've cut you off. Thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Next is Michael Novakovich and Chris Wright, and then Brent Kirby. I want to interject just for those of you that are using the comment thread to question other speakers or toss comments back and forth. That's really not what the comment thread is here for in this public comment hearing. I want everybody, as I said in the beginning, to give dignity and respect to each of the opinions, and this is not a forum for you to have an argument. We're not in a thread where we have comments on a newspaper article. This is a recorded meeting. It's for the council to hear what each speaker has to say. And I just ask you to refrain from those things. If you agree with somebody, you can put I agree. If you disagree, that's fine. But let's keep the questioning and some of the other comments that are bordering on uncivil and consider how you'd want to be treated. All right, let's press on with our speaker. Number 27 on the list is Michael Novakovich. Are you there, sir?
Can you hear me? Yes, I am.
I can. Go ahead, sir. You're on.
Thank you, Chair Drew and Council. I am Michael Novakovich, President and CEO of Visit Tri-Cities. The Visit Tri-Cities Board of Directors is in opposition to the proposed Horseheaven Wind Farm project. Our concern is the installation will have significant adverse impacts on our $500 million a year tourism economy. A competitive advantage of our region is our wine industry. Visitors to the Tri-Cities are literally in the heart of Washington wine country. Our Red Mountain American viticultural area is home to rolling vineyards and estate wineries with incredible views of the Horseheaven Hills. The beauty of our region and its rugged desert hills are a significant tourism draw from wine lovers to visitors whose interests lie in the exploration and understanding of the great Missoula floods. The Horseheaven Hills provide a wealth of leisure opportunities which drive visitor spending and associated significant quality of life impacts. The proposed Horseheaven Wind Farm is expected to have adverse impacts on our tourism economy for years to come. The towering wind turbines would rob our region of its scenic beauty while creating a perception of a windy destination, translating into a loss of visitation. Repeatedly, a downturn in our tourism economy translates to a loss of permanent jobs, businesses, business investment, and the quality of life activities impacts that our activities fund. As an example, I recently spoke with a hotel developer that terminated the development of a hotel project due to potential construction of this wind farm and its line of sight views. Tourism helps small businesses survive and supports roughly 6,000 jobs in our community. The over 50 million taxes in revenue that's generated by visitor spending helps to fund emergency services like police and fire, schools and teachers, maintenance of our roads, beautifications of our park, and more. In short, visitor spending helps to fund a safe community, educated community, employed community, and a beautiful community filled with many amenities for all community members to enjoy. Any adverse impact to our tourism economy as a result of Scout Clean Energy's Horseheaven Wind Farm will reduce the economic activity that provides for these quality of life benefits, and we respectfully ask that you reject their application. Truly appreciate this opportunity to comment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Novakovich. It's now 7:30. I would have normally taken a break in between the two hearings, and because we have a court reporter that you can't see but is equally subject to the call of nature that all of us are, we're going to take a brief break. It's going to be until 7:40 p.m. So that on my clock, that's 13 minutes. When we come back, the court reporter will let us know when she's ready to go on the record, and then it will be Chris Wright, Brent Kirby, and Ray Espinoza. So for those of you listening, you can put your phones down for the next 12 minutes, and at 7:40, I'll reconvene this public comment hearing. For those waiting for the land use hearing, that'll start at approximately 8:30 if we hold everybody to 2 minutes at a time. We're going to recess the meeting now. We're off the record. Go ahead and take a break. We're going to ask you all to mute your microphones. We'll be back at 7:40.
I think I've heard everything I want to hear.
What?
I think I've heard about everything I want to hear.
Well, go ahead and start your car.
What?
And I expect it.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah.
Pretty much, don't you think?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Being opposed primarily, to get stuff on my shoes.
No, somebody did.
So I did,
Okay, it's not a big.
To whoever's talking about starting their car, can you please turn off your mic?
Viewpoints of view and a lot of science.
Turn it off. Okay. Here we go. Here we are.
I got everything, I think. Here we go.
I can't believe that this is the way we run our government. Are you kidding me? This is scary. Can you hear me? No, what are you guys doing?
Good laddie. Good boy. Good laddie. Where's Cody? Cody in here?
I mean,
hang up your phone. Where's Cody?
Hey, whoever has Cody, you need to mute your microphone. We can hear your whole conversation.
Yeah. I don't have Cody. I can't believe you guys are doing this. This is the most.
We can hear Mike Crowley too.
we just leaving the doors open?
This is Judge Torum. I just want those of you that are tuning in now for the land use consistency portion of the hearing to know that for the Horse Heaven Wind Farm project, we're still in the midst and wrapping up the public comment hearing. We'll be continuing that at 7:40 p.m. tonight. It's now 7:34. So in about 6 minutes, we'll be back on the record for the public comment hearing. We have at least, I think, 40 more minutes of public comments to take. I'm projecting that the land use consistency hearing will be starting as soon as we can get done with the public comment. But because that's important to have a record tonight, we're going to continue on till about 8:30. If we can wrap the public comment hearing by then, I'll be happily starting the land use consistency hearing at that time. So stay on the line. For those that want to file written comments and not stay up late tonight on either this hearing, the public comment hearing, or the land use consistency hearing, you can do that by sending an email to efsec@utc.wa.gov or go onto the EFSEC website and follow the process for filing a public comment. Thank you. We'll be back on the record in about 5 minutes. We're almost ready to go back on the record, and I want to make sure that Chris Wright, Brent Kirby, and Ray Espinoza are ready to speak next.
This is Chris Wright. I'm here.
Perfect. We'll call on you shortly, sir. Can I get an indication that our court reporter is ready to go? I think I just got a text saying as much. Thank you. All right, let's go back on the record then. This is the public comment hearing in the Horse Heaven Wind Farm project. Again, today is March 30th. It's now 7:40 p.m. We were off the record for 10 to 12 minutes so everybody could take a break. We've been going pretty much since 5 o'clock with our informational open house and some questions there, and this public information meeting that went starting at 5:30 p.m. The 7:30 p.m. land use consistency hearing has been deferred until we can complete public comment tonight. We estimate currently that will begin at 8:30 p.m. And again, my name is Judge Adam Torum. I'm an administrative law judge presiding over these comments tonight. We're limiting speakers to 2 minutes. I'm waiting for the 2-minute clock to come back up on the screen so that folks can see where we're at. I'm not sure who on the EFSEC staff is trying to load that. Joan, is that you?
It is. Can you not see it? I can see it on my screen.
Mine is still loading, but if you, Mr. Wright, can you see it on your screen?
Yes, sir.
That's all that really matters. Joan, you can start the clock for Mr. Chris Wright. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name's Chris Wright. I live in West Richland, Washington. I find Scout's position on using EFSEC rather than Benton County to permit this project interesting. At the March 15 public meeting with the Benton County Commissioner, Scout's project manager stated, quote, "We are seeking approval through EFSEC rather than Benton County because the project is too complicated and require too many resources. I find that funny since in Benton County we currently work with a nuclear reactor, a hydroelectric dam, an airport, a large potato plant, a uranium processing facility, some production wineries, and the world's largest nuclear waste site. Scout has recently stated they wish to have more public participation. I believe they could do that by withdrawing their application to EFSEC and asking Benton County to be the lead agency. The wind farm impact. The proposed Horse Heaven wind farm is amazingly inefficient. Scout states it will generate power 27% of the time. This from a footprint 23 miles long. It will also generate 6 to 9 million pounds of non-recyclable waste each time the turbine blades are changed. That's about every 10 years. So we're looking at 18 to 27 million pounds of waste. And Scout's reclamation plan and the application is somewhat vague about where it will go, but as Scout will be long gone and the project owned by LLC from Delaware, I don't think they care. Gigantic, inefficient, and wasteful, and for these reasons, the Horse Heaven wind farm should not be approved. I'd also note that natural gas is going for 6.5 cents a kilowatt hour. In my opinion, it's not a wind farm or a solar farm, it's a tax credit and emission credit farm, and I think it's disgusting. And on the March 28th editorial, Scout stated, most of the people who disagree with this wind farm are those with direct views of it. I would agree with that statement, and using Scout's estimate, that's between 175 and 150,000 people in the Tri-Cities. So Scout is proposing 250 towers, 500 feet tall with aircraft anti-collision lights on top of a ridgeline that's 1,500 feet above the surrounding terrain. And South is unplaying the impact. And in addition, in November, Scout stated that the wind farm component would generate 8 jobs for this project. One second, Wright. Not 800, but 8. That's laughable. Scout's application should be rejected. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the determination some of you have to fit 3 minutes of comments into 2. The court reporter is frankly suffering it, and the rate of speed sounds much more like the end of a Federal Express commercial. So just out of some mercy for the court reporter, I know many of you have a lot to say. We'll take all of your comments in writing. We can read those at a leisurely pace. But if you're speaking so fast that it's difficult for those that might have hearing problems or otherwise to hear you, and the court reporter to hear every word you're saying and make a clear record, it's difficult. And I understand we have a limit of 2 minutes. This is only the first of what will become many opportunities for public comment. The best way for us to hear every word you want is to type them up and then summarize the best 2 minutes, or perhaps 3 if we have more time when we come to your community in person, and give us the highlights. But submit all your comments, whether they're at the portal, an email, or you want us to hear your voice tonight. All those comments are considered equally and given equal weight based on your concerns. Brent Kirby's been waiting, and I'm going to ask you, Mr. Kirby, again, to pay attention to the timer on your screen. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name is Brent Kirby. I'm a resident of Kennewick. I'm speaking in strong support for the project. I especially appreciate the inclusion of energy storage, which is critical to including more renewables on the grid. The climate change crisis demands an all-of-the-above strategy for carbon-free energy. The size of this project, over 1 gigawatt, is of the scale necessary to have a significant impact on carbon emissions as we displace fossil energy. Modern large wind turbines spin slowly enough for birds to avoid them. The impression that wind turbines kill birds are based on older, faster spinning designs. Bird death is not a major issue with these turbines. For those opposed to it on aesthetic grounds, we need to allow projects such as these, even at small personal sacrifice, to avoid catastrophic effects of climate change across the state, nation, and planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. The next 3 speakers are going to be Ray Espinoza, David Fritsch, and then Dr. D. Joshua Miller. Mr. Espinoza, are you out there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
All right. I can. Sir, go ahead. Your 2 minutes is starting.
Thank you, Chair, and the entire commission for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Ray Espinoza, and I'm the Assistant Regional Manager for the Laborers International Union in North America. I am also a lifelong resident of the Tri-Cities and have a strong support for the communities here. I'm here today to speak in favor of this project. The workforce that would benefit from this project is more than a few, as many have continued to state. If we look at the work forecast for the Horse Heaven Hills project, construction of phase 1 of the project is estimated to support 458 total direct, indirect, and induced jobs in Benton and Franklin counties, and approximately 37 million in labor income, with total economic output of approximately 70.6 million. During phase 2 project construction is estimated to support approximately 472 to 539 total jobs and approximately 37.6 million to 41.9 million in labor income, with a total economic output of approximately 73 million to 85.7 million. On the Rattlesnake Ridge project, just north of here in Adams County, a local workforce and support from elected officials created a successful renewable project with the project labor agreement. Workers were working 12 to 15 hours per day, including getting double time on Sundays. They brought in an average of $2,700 to $3,000 per week after taxes. And according to the business manager local 348, members brought in a year's worth of pay in 6 to 7 months. This is just an overview of what renewable projects would bring to communities like this. The numbers seem to be clear. Renewable jobs provide not only a paycheck for local workers, they provide a good career for themselves and their families, as well as the opportunity to give back to the communities that they live in. Thank you, Commission, and thank you to the landowners.
Thank you, Mr. Espinoza. Next is David Fritsch, followed by Dr. Miller, and then Andrew Schmidt and Jermaine Smiley. Mr. Fritsch, are you on the line? We'll come back from Mr. Fritsch. Dr. Miller. Dr. Miller.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can now. Go ahead, sir.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Dr. Joshua Miller. I'm a resident of the Tri-Cities area, and I wanted to say that I'm strongly opposed to this proposed project. One of my biggest concerns is I have not seen any kind of plan for decommissioning these turbines, as is commonly seen throughout the literature. These turbines have a limited lifetime, usually depending on what you look, somewhere between 8 and 25 years. There's no plan that says what will happen when these turbines are no longer functional. when a turbine is non-operable, what will happen, particularly if the company managing these is no longer financially solvent. So if, for example, Scout sells this to another company, or Scout itself goes out of business or declares bankruptcy, who will take care for these turbines, who will decommission them, and who will deconstruct them when they are no longer viable? And that has a massive impact on the environment, both in the deconstruction, but also if these are no longer functional, you have these large fields of non-operable turbines being a blight to the environment and a blight to the view. And this is one area that I've not heard anybody talk about, and I don't see anywhere in the proposal specifying what they will do, particularly if the company is no longer solvent. And I would request that there be some type of escrow account set up where the company will be forced to capitalize the entirety of the decommissioning prior decommissioning of each turbine prior to them building, to make sure that they can be taken care of appropriately if they are built. I appreciate everybody's time, and I appreciate your patience. This has, I'm sure, been frustrating and difficult for you in managing this, particularly at a virtual setting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. I appreciate that. I'm doing the best I can, and I appreciate your comments as well. Is David Fritsch available yet? I'm going to call you again. If not, we're going to go to Andrew Schmidt, and then Jermaine Smiley, and then Richard Sargent. And Mr. Sargent, I know you were able to speak up earlier, so hopefully by the time we get to you, you're ready to unmute. David Fritsch, last call. All right, Andrew Schmidt, are you out there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, well, I think so far I am the only person with the direct experience to speak and directly involved in this project. So many of the things that people have said I could rebut on their comments that they just have no knowledge on. We own or operate a large part of where this project is going. And like many of the things, if you look at the map that was put up earlier, if you've ever been up there to Horse Heaven, which I'm not sure many of you actually have, I'm up there every single day on every single piece of property that this project is proposed on. You would realize that very few of these turbines are actually going to be seen. And the solar arrays, they're never going to be seen unless you actually drive up there and drive down the roads. In response to disturbing these lands and the habitats, we disturb them every single day. It's not, if it's not farmable land, it's not good land for turbines or solar. There's no loss of habitat. All the habitat that they talk about for wildlife is in the canyons, it's in the CRP programs. It is safe from this stuff. Everything that this is going on is farmed and tilled up every day. I deal with SEPA a lot, with a lot of experience, and so everybody knows that the SEPA determination for this is of non-significance. So that's just pretty much a moot point in this project. A small fraction of people that have no direct interest are trying to put a thorn in the side of their neighbors. The economic impact, as has been said, is huge, and it's not just for the farmers up there. It trickles down, as they've said, through all the workers. It's estimated to be over $700 million over this project, which for this economy, or for this community, it's just great. The construction jobs could be the jobs of your neighbor out there, and that's pretty much it. Out of time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Jermaine Smiley, you're next.
Can I say something?
Huh?
No, if you're not on the speakers list, I didn't call your name. Thanks for interrupting. Jermaine Smiley. All right, Richard Sargent, are you out there?
Yeah, still here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mr. Sargent. You're up next. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. My name is Richard Sargent. I am a lifelong Columbia Basin resident, and I currently live in Richland. I'll minimize my complete comments. This is an extremely large project, 1,000 megawatts, and it, far beyond the energy needs for what the localized area needs, which questions me, where is this energy going? Who are the off-takers? Is this energy even being used in our region? Is it being used in Washington? Could it be used for the energy imbalance market coming up, which will basically transfer it to California? The applicant has discussed the future needs of energy and the needs of energy adequacy in our region, and quoted the Northwest Power Conservation Council. All true, and however, the energy deficiencies that are coming to our region are caused mostly by the loss of base load facilities and not necessarily because of the growth. The energy adequacy benchmark is called a loss of load potential or probability. This calculation forecasts when energy resources fail to meet the highest demands of our region. The generation profile of wind is one of the worst types of generations to improve this adequacy or to reduce the loss of load probability. It won't do much. To use wind to minimize adequate concerns and loss probabilities would require a tremendous amount of overbuild of wind generation that would dramatically increase the cost of energy throughout this area. It'd be, quite frankly, extremely wasteful. Our area already has enough wind. We have an overabundance of wind at time. What it does is it creates other facilities to moderate their generation, and including the dams and CGS, and this project will exacerbate those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent. I appreciate your brevity there. Jermaine Smiley, last call. Okay, the next speakers are going to be Bruce McAllister, I believe it's Jim Atkins, and Patrick D. Grengs II. Jermaine Smiley, last call. All right, moving on. Bruce McAllister, are you there? Bruce McAllister, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, sir. Can you again state your name, make sure we got the right speaker?
Yes, I'm Bruce McAllister. I'm a resident in the Benton City area.
All right, go ahead, sir. 2 minutes.
I have a front row seat here to all of these towers. I'd like to make a strong reminder to everyone. Scout Energy is a for-profit company. And you take any other company in the world that says, hey, I want to build this up on the ridge, I think we'd have a lot of bigger uproar because of the touting of the clean energy. It was brought up by a speaker just a moment ago that was a concern of mine, is where is this power going? Scout Energy doesn't want to invest a bunch of money in a project of this size without having a known market. They know what the market is. It is not Washington. And a little bit, one of the things I wanted to point out, probably around 85% to 90% of the county's population, and most of Franklin County's population, is going to have 80-degree view of windmills. The bird kill, the study was done near the wind farm that's near Biggs, both in Oregon and Washington, and they claim that the average is about 5 birds per tower. So you take 5 birds per tower times the amount of towers, that's a lot of birds. And the people that I see complaining that are for this are people that are going to have a short-term income benefit, but others are going to suffer long-term, which is our wineries, quality of life, and tourism. And thank you very much for having me and having this forum for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAllister. Next speaker is going to be Jim Atkins. Mr. Atkins, are you there? Patrick Grengs II.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me? This is Patrick Grengs.
All right, sir. I'm going to let you go right now. 2 minutes.
All right, greetings. I'm a 30-year resident of the Tri-Cities, and I offer my comments. Each of these wind turbines requires approximately 2,500 tons of concrete for the foundation. The amount of the CO2 generated to produce this concrete is enormous. The rate of CO2 production in terms of windmill installations around the world would place this among the top CO2 producing countries were it made measured as such. Insisting that windmills are somehow green is a blatant scam. The turbine blades wear out due to stress fractures and must be replaced over their operating lifetime, anywhere from 15 to 30 years. The blades are similar to airplane wings. They develop microfractures during use.
Mr. Grengs, can you slow it down just a little bit? Thanks.
I will do that, sir. There are no current cost-effective methods for recycling the wind blades, in spite of the quote from Cynthia Langston of Casper, Wyoming Solid Waste Management. Some may find the appearance of the turbines to be attractive, thinking only of the instantaneous electricity produced. Others look at the turbines as pollution, destroying the clean open spaces. The Columbia River Gorge has already been desecrated with these eyesores. Wind turbines change the wind velocity to such an extent that the larger wind farms, the rows of turbines on the trailing end, move much more slowly, and as a result, the momentum of the wind being significantly dampened those turbines out in the front of the wave. In short, the actual amount of power produced is often significantly less than the calculations from the models. When you have over 260,000 wind turbines around the world that directly change the climate, be a significant reduction in surface convective air currents, which dampen advective atmospheric mixing, and nobody from the Sierra Club, Earth First, the IPCC, or the Friends of Global Progress is even bothering to wave a flag of concern, then you can be assured that climate change alarmism is less a matter of science and more a matter of politics and taxpayer-financed corporatism. I am fully opposed to the project. Thank you for our opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Grings. Jim Atkins, calling again. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Mr. Atkins. Go ahead. Your 2 minutes starts now.
All right, thank you. I have sent an email previously, and I will send another one after this. I am opposed to this project, and I am in agreement with the Benton County Commissioners and Dr. Miller. I would also like to know who paid for the Tetra Tech draft habitat mitigation plan. And this project was held pretty quiet until last fall when it kind of got out and people started getting an uproar about this. Tetra Tech, Scout Energy, in their comments, they said they did extensive thorough environmental analysis the last 4 years. Well, how come now they need to do an environmental impact statement? I would think that if they really cared that much, they would have already done that. And then furthermore, I understand that people are concerned about jobs, but they haven't said if it's union or non-union work for those guys. But the monies that Scout Energy throws out there, they're not specific. They're not a firm number. It's like, okay, we'll throw this money out there and maybe they'll jump on it. Here's $30 million. We're going to pay for property tax money, but we're not going to give you production money. So they're going to make millions and millions and pay us a pittance of the money they make off of these projects, which, as previously stated, it's all about government subsidies. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Atkins. The next speakers are going to be Frank Cleaver or Cliver. I apologize if I'm butchering your name. And Dennis Simmelink. And then Michael Ritter. Frank with a K, Cleaver or Cliver?
That's okay. You're not the first to butcher it. That's all right, Judge. You're doing great. And this is an insurmountable task you've got. And I appreciate what you're trying to do.
Let me give you your 2 minutes and you do what you need to here. Go ahead, sir.
All right. So I've got a long background in planning and building and all of the mitigations and conditional use permits and so forth. And I find this process to be mind-boggling to see how the local authorities, who are very competent, very capable of managing these environmental studies and managing the planning and the building process, are being short-circuited and have been ignored, basically. I mean, tonight we had a couple of minutes from one and a couple of minutes from another, and I realize, Judge, you said that there's going to be more and more comments. That was not believed to be the case before the withdrawal of the expedited permit. And I question this whole process. It needs to be brought here locally. Obvious from tonight and all of the comments that have been made, there's a huge, huge opposition. There are many things that need to be studied and looked at more carefully. This whole job notion, which is, I think, the best support it gets, the construction is a short-term job opportunity, and then very few people will do the long-term maintenance. The bigger opportunity for jobs is the unique aspect of the Horse Heaven Hills, and it got touched on by a couple of people in terms of the winery aspect. We have the Horse Heaven Hills AVA, which denotes the special soil that we have here. It's better than France, it's better than California, and if the governor, dear Governor Inslee, would just promote with those land tracts that have been identified as being the premier developable tracts to the wine industry, we could get wineries up from California, we could get expansion of the vineyards. That land is precious. It's unique because of the geologic conditions that we have. That's why it's superior to the other wine areas. And I could get into the facts and statistics on that, but it's true.
I'm going to ask you, sir,
Yep.
if you would, and I know the interest you have in wine. After hours, I'm going to have a similar interest. But let me ask you to submit those comments and the data you have in writing or in a bottle form if you can mail it. But I'm going to ask you to throw your comments there.
I would do that, and I would invite you to come up to the Horse Heaven Hills and enjoy the best wine there is in the world. And that industry will create thousands of jobs long term.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We'd love to have a site visit. This is a wind farm, not a wine farm. I know we're just one letter away, but I got 6 more commenters to squeeze in here. I appreciate your courtesy.
Thank you for your time, Judge. I appreciate it.
Dennis Simmelink, are you out there? All right, Mr. Simmelink, I'm going to call you again. Next is Michael Ritter, followed by Steve Simmons. And Rylan, I think it's Grimer or Grimmer. I've seen your name in the comment string. You're going to be up in a few people. Michael Ritter, are you there?
Yes, I am, and here I go. You ready?
All right. Ready.
Right. Hey, this is Mike Ritter. I'm with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I'm the statewide technical lead for wind and solar development, and I live in Kennewick. The Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife will be providing official comments in writing, and the following is taken directly from those comments. The immense size of the project along the Horse Heaven Hills ridgeline and the subsequent landscape scale impact to an important habitat and ecological connectivity corridor will be difficult, if not impossible, to mitigate. It is important to note that the lineal Horse Heaven Hills represent some of the last remaining functional and uninterrupted shrub steppe and natural grasslands in Benton County. The project's location and east-west orientation in the Horse Heaven Hills puts many of the turbines, micrositing corridors, transmission lines, solar arrays, etc., in close proximity to and crossing over many of the draws and canyons that provide some of the only native shrub steppe and grassland habitat in the area, as well as crossing over waters of the state. Specifically to solar, we consider impacts to vegetation inside the fenced area as permanent loss of existing habitat functions and values and wildlife use. And for solar arrays that have any draws or canyons or ephemeral drainages in them, these areas should be maintained as open and connected to the adjacent offsite habitats. Conservatively, we have calculated 1,555 acres of temporary and permanent impacts. And finally, the Horse Heaven Hills ridgeline is an important shrub steppe habitat and landscape connectivity area. We have worked closely with Benton County and private developers to mitigate previous projects in a way that conserves natural habitats and connectivity. Constructing this project would result in the loss of ecological connectivity and loss of wildlife species. We would ask that the project focus on the south end, and I will conclude there. Thank you so much.
Mr. Ritter, just so I'm clear, again, this is Judge Torum. Are you speaking on your own behalf or on behalf of the agency?
On behalf of the agency.
Okay, thank you. That's important for me to know and for the council as well. Is Dennis Simmelink available yet? All right, Steve Simmons.
Yes.
Steve Simmons, go ahead. Your 2 minutes.
So my name is Steve Simmons, and I am a lifetime resident of the Tri-City region, currently live in Franklin County in Pasco. I just want to say thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak tonight. I am opposed to the Horse Heaven Wind Farm project. I feel that we are moving too fast with clean energy production in certain areas and not fast enough in others. It seems that government officials want clean now, and they feel that we are just following the green trend. If we sit back and ask ourselves, do we want this so bad that we are overemphasizing the supposed benefits while we are underemphasizing serious concerns in the name of choosing the green stamp of approval that our state executive department wants so bad? In reality, wind power just doesn't pencil out. We have an abundance of fossil fuels that can be cleanly spent while we develop and implement an energy approach that encompasses all sources of energy and is not rushing subsidized sources such as wind farms to use. We have other sources in our area that produce more benefit to the state and most importantly to the people of the Tri-City area. We have nuclear and hydropower, and I would also add we used to have coal power, both of which offer higher and longer-term regional employment, as well as recreational flood control, medical uses, on-demand energy, and load shifting. From my experience as an electrician, I know that the construction of these wind farms are quick and fast jobs, not long-term as has been stated. And from my experience as a maintenance planner, I know that the majority of maintenance jobs on these farms is done by specialized contractors who bring in their own workers. The economic benefits in our area to our area families and public services are being over-exaggerated. And I would just want to say that I do agree with the Benton County Commissioners, the Benton County Planning Commission, the gentleman with the comment about the Space Needles. I agree with our representative, Mary Dye, and also the gentleman who just had the comments about bringing the argument to our area because there are so many concerns. And I just want to say thank you for your time. And I am an electrician, a local electrician in this area as well.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Last call for Dennis Similink. All right, sir. If you're having a problem with your mute, Mr. Similink, or if you're still on the line, please send in your comments in writing. We have 3 more speakers, and then I've been notified that the mayor, Don Britton, wants to be the last speaker, and because no one signed up after him, we'll put him last. You'll get the last word, sir. Rylan Grimmer, and then Margaret Hugh, and Matt Malin will precede the mayor. Mr. Grimmer, are you out there?
Yeah, this is Rylan Grimes.
All right, go ahead, sir. 2 minutes, and again, if you can speak at a reasonable rate for the court reporter, we appreciate it.
Okay. My name is Rylan Grimes, and I'm a lifelong resident of the Tri-Cities, and I'm also the organizer for the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 112 here in Kennewick. Local 112 represents over 1,000 electricians in Southeast Washington and Northeast Oregon, and we are in support of this project because of the good-paying jobs it will create both during and after construction. Wind combined with solar and battery storage is a very reliable source of energy generation, and IBEW has been proving this all over Oregon. We currently have a couple of projects like this right now down in Morrow and Gilliam County in Oregon. When we combine renewable energy with the hydroelectric and the nuclear that we already have, it will give us a healthy amount of diversification in our energy generation and will keep our grid reliable for decades. The windmills are nothing new to the Tri-Cities, as there have been windmills in the face of Jump Off Joe with the 9 Canyon project since I graduated from high school at Southridge over 15 years ago. I haven't once looked at them with disgust. In fact, I look at them with pride, knowing that I worked on a few just like them when I was an apprentice electrician. IBEW Local 112 looks forward to working with Scout Clean Energy and their electrical contractor to successfully complete this project in the near future. Thank you.
Mr. Grimes, was that it?
That is it.
All right, perfect. I wasn't sure the way you left off there. Margaret Hugh, Matt Malin are next. Ms. Hugh?
I'm trying to find it.
All right, I can see on the screen there, Ms. Hugh. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm trying to find the microphone. There.
Am I on? Okay.
Yes, you're on.
Okay, I didn't know that.
All right,
Okay.
go ahead. I'll start your 2 minutes now.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me speak here. I live in Badger Canyon, and Badger Canyon is about 13 miles long, and it's from I-82, and it goes around and meets at Kiona. So where about 140 of these machines are planning on going are right above me. And people have said, oh, nobody's going to see these, but they're absolutely wrong, because some of these are, when I took Scout's map and enlarged, it said that some of these are going in at 500-foot level. That is inside of our Badger Canyon. And Badger Canyon used to be the Yakima River before the Montana floods. So you get an idea of the terrain. We have hills on both sides, and some open up a little bit more, but we're long and narrow. Well, with that, in 1948, airplanes started applying herbicides in 4-5T in hills. And this is significant because it drifted onto grapes and wiped out grape fields and farms from Kiona all the way to Finley. Now, with that, there is a lot of turmoil and back and forth, but not until the 1980s when they started using other herbicides that had affected diversified all agriculture that was not growing wheat. And these were all wheat herbicides. Well, in 1988, I lost a lot of crops. And in a paraquat application that was made in August of 1988 was important because it ended up drifting over 400 square miles of Tri-Cities. And with that, a comprehensive meteorological analysis of a pesticide incident was written by Battelle Northwest, which did a lot of study on the topography and the terrain and how the winds come down into the canyons and they circle around on the other side of the hill. And with that, we are going to have so much noise from 140 turbines when the majority of those are at 2,000 feet. Somebody said 1,500, but they're 2,000 feet coming into the canyon down
Ms.
to
Hugh,
500 feet.
we're running past your time. Can you sum up for me, please?
So I just think that there is a critical piece of information from Battelle Northwest that is a meteorology study on the winds and the air movement off of 4.7s, and that is going to significantly cause a lot of noise problem in Badger Canyon.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hugh. I'm going to have to cut you off there.
That's
Matt
okay.
Malin, are you on the line?
I've submitted a long letter to you.
Excellent. We will read it. Matt Malin, are you out there? Matt Malin? Going once? Going twice? Because I promised the mayor he'd be last. I can't call you again. Matt Malin, last call. All right, Mr. Malin, if you have any comments, if you're still on the line, please submit them in writing. Mayor Don Britton, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Sir?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you.
Hi.
You're our last 2 minutes. I'd ask you to give us the courtesy of making it 2 minutes. I'll cut you off and let you know when we get there. 2 minutes, go ahead, sir.
Judge, it'll be less. I appreciate you placed me last. I was traveling all day today, and I was not sure when I'd be back in town. The city of Kennewick had prepared and submitted a letter, which I was going to read into the record tonight, opposing Scout Energy's request for expedited review. However, since Scout's now withdrawn that application, and in fairness and respect for the time tonight, I am not going to read that into the record. But I do want to state that the primary reason for the opposition of the expedited review process was to be in alignment with the Washington 2021 State Energy Strategy that identified the need for maximum outreach to communities, public involvement, and environmental impacts. So with that, I just wanted to say that I appreciate your time and effort and your patience tonight during this long public comment. You did a great job, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Chair Drew, I think that it is the end of our public comment listing. It's now 8:19 p.m. I'm going to suggest we take another 10-minute break, make sure the applicant and the county are ready to go at 8:30 for the land use consistency hearing. Is there anything else that the chair wants to do before we close the public comment hearing that we've been on since 5:30 p.m.?
No, I think that's an excellent suggestion, and I appreciate everybody's comments tonight and patience with a different kind of communication. And we are all here listening to your comments, and we will be reviewing all the written comments as well. And with that, we will close the public information meeting, and we will come back at 8:30 for the land use consistency.
We're at 8:20. We're closing that public information and comment hearing. Thank you all. We're off the record at this point. We'll come back in 10 minutes, and I'll then formally open with the chair the land use consistency hearing. Back in 10 minutes. Thank you.